The gray, choppy waters of the East China Sea became the stage for a perilous international drama. A Chinese fishing vessel, the Yuegang Yu 95110, bobbed helplessly, its engines silent. Circling it was a stark white and blue vessel from the Japan Coast Guard. The air crackled with tension, a silent standoff broadcast across the world. This was not just about a fishing boat. It was about sovereignty, national pride, and the fragile balance of power in one of the world's most contested maritime regions. The incident quickly spiraled into a major diplomatic crisis, pulling Tokyo and Beijing into a dangerous confrontation. The Japanese patrol ship communicated with the Chinese trawler through blaring horns and radio messages. On board, the Chinese crew looked on with a mixture of fear and defiance, claiming they had fished these waters for generations. For the Japan Coast Guard, the vessel was deep inside Japan's exclusive economic zone, a clear violation. The moment Japanese officers boarded, the incident crossed a critical threshold, demanding a response from both governments. The initial confrontation at sea has now transformed into a war of words, a diplomatic chess match played out in press briefings and back-channel communications. The standoff highlights how a single spark from a fishing dispute could ignite a much larger conflict, threatening the stability of the entire Indo-Pacific. The facts of the incident, as presented by each side, are starkly different. Japan claims the Yuegang Yu was operating well within its exclusive economic zone, actively trawling without permits. After repeated warnings, the Coast Guard boarded and seized the vessel, detaining the crew for questioning. From Beijing, the story is one of injustice. China insists the vessel was in traditional fishing grounds, not Japan's EEZ. Chinese officials condemn the seizure as illegal and provocative, demanding the crew's release. For Japan, this is a matter of law enforcement and national security, protecting its territory and marine resources. China frames the crew as victims of Japanese aggression, using the incident to rally domestic support. The clash of narratives transforms a simple fishing dispute into a test of national will, making resolution nearly impossible. Each side's version fuels public outrage and hardens diplomatic positions. The result? A standoff, where compromise is elusive and tensions only escalate. The roots of this conflict run deep, entwined in centuries of history and the complexities of modern international law. The East China Sea is a mosaic of overlapping claims. Japan draws its EEZ from a median line, while China claims its continental shelf extends much further. The 1997 China-Japan Fisheries Agreement created joint fishing zones but left the most sensitive areas unresolved. When incidents occur outside these zones, both sides exploit legal gray areas. The 2010 collision between a Chinese trawler and Japanese patrol boats near the disputed islands triggered a major diplomatic crisis, ending only after Japan released the Chinese captain. That event set a precedent for brinkmanship and hardened attitudes on both sides. Today, every action is viewed through the lens of past confrontations. Japan is determined not to back down again. China, emboldened by its growing power, is less willing to accept Japanese actions. This historical baggage makes compromise difficult and raises the stakes for every new dispute. The current standoff is just the latest chapter in a long, unresolved saga. Each incident deepens mistrust and narrows the path to peaceful resolution. The drama at sea immediately reverberates on land, creating immense political pressure on both governments. In Japan, public opinion demands a firm response, with protests and calls to prosecute the Chinese crew. The Prime Minister must balance projecting strength with avoiding economic fallout, as business leaders urge caution. In China, state media frames the incident as Japanese aggression, fueling nationalist sentiment and demands for a strong response. President Xi's government cannot afford to appear weak, especially given the historical context. Public anger empowers leaders to take a tough stance, but also limits their flexibility to compromise. The fishermen have become national heroes in China, complicating any quiet resolution. Both governments are boxed in by domestic expectations. The conflict is now judged in the court of public opinion, where emotion outweighs reason. This makes de-escalation politically risky for both sides. The standoff is as much about managing internal pressures as it is about international law. Beneath the rhetoric, powerful economic forces drive the conflict. For coastal communities in both countries, East China Sea fish stocks are a vital economic lifeline. Overfishing and pollution have pushed fleets into contested zones, intensifying competition for dwindling resources. For China, Access to these grounds is about food security. For Japan, it's about protecting local industries. Both governments face pressure from fishing communities to defend their interests. The broader economic relationship, massive trade, and integrated supply chains hangs in the balance. A serious crisis could have devastating economic consequences, as seen in the 2010 rare earths embargo. Business leaders on both sides watch nervously, aware that nationalist fervor could jeopardize prosperity. The risk of this standoff spiraling out of control is real and deeply concerning. What starts as a Coast Guard action could escalate if China dispatches its own heavily armed vessels, raising the risk of direct confrontation. The United States, bound by a mutual defense treaty with Japan, watches with alarm. Any conflict could draw it in. The Indo-Pacific's interconnected trade routes and alliances mean a clash would send shockwaves through the global economy. Regional neighbors with their own disputes are watching closely, seeing this as a test of China's assertiveness and the international order. The nightmare scenario, a military miscalculation as naval and air forces increase their presence, triggering a deadly chain reaction. In the heat of the moment, national pride and public pressure make backing down difficult. Diplomats are desperate to avoid a path from fishing dispute to full-blown crisis. The stakes extend far beyond the East China Sea. This is a tipping point for regional peace and security. As tensions remain high, the focus shifts to possible pathways for resolution. Behind the scenes, diplomats in Beijing and Tokyo engage in intense, closed-door talks, seeking a face-saving solution. The Japanese legal process moves forward, reinforcing Tokyo's claim that this is a law enforcement issue, not a political provocation. This approach buys time, allowing tempers to cool while the courts proceed. China ramps up diplomatic and public pressure, using media and economic threats to force Japan's hand. Beijing may also challenge Japan's jurisdiction in international forums, a likely compromise. Japan finds the crew and releases them as a goodwill gesture, allowing both sides to claim victory. This familiar playbook depends on whether domestic politics allow leaders to compromise. The outcome hinges on the ability to balance national pride with pragmatic diplomacy. The crisis will test the flexibility and resolve of both governments. The only sustainable way out of this cycle is robust, consistent dialogue. Hotlines between defense ministries and coast guards must be used regularly to build trust and prevent misunderstandings. Updating the 1997 Fisheries Agreement is essential, expanding joint zones, clarifying rules, and improving dispute mechanisms. While sovereignty disputes remain, better management can prevent day-to-day incidents from spiraling. Small steps, joint research, anti-illegal fishing cooperation, search and rescue drills, can build habits of cooperation. Leaders must resist nationalist pressures and pursue pragmatic solutions, even if unpopular at home. In a deeply interconnected world, there is no winner in a conflict between China and Japan. The path forward lies in managing differences peacefully, not confrontation. The alternative is a future of instability and risk for the entire region. The responsibility to avoid conflict rests with both nations' leaders. The Yuegang-Yu incident is a powerful lesson for the international community. Minor maritime incidents can quickly escalate into major crises, threatening global stability. Maritime gray zones are dangerous flashpoints. Without clear rules and commitment, conflict is inevitable. Nationalism constrains leaders, making de-escalation difficult and fueling escalation. Responsible leadership means guiding public opinion and creating space for diplomacy. Crisis management mechanisms must be practiced and trusted before tensions rise. Peace requires active, continuous effort, regular communication and trust building. The broader challenge, managing China's rise and shifting power without conflict. The future depends on renewed commitment to international law, shared interests, and the power of diplomacy. The lesson is clear: regional peace relies not on warships, but on the will to cooperate.